Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of It's Your Move, our video podcast. I am Remo Tlale, and I'm here with the exceptional Werner Force. And we're continuing our conversations in line with our current series, which is Image, Be the You That God Wants You to Be. Correct?
Correct.
There you go. All right. And so this week we dove into the actual Enneagram numbers, starting off with the Enneagram Number 2. And so if you don't mind giving us a brief overview
of the number 2.
The number 2, please.
Okay, as I've said on other occasions, I'm no expert on the Enneagram, but I'm learning alongside everybody else. What I'm understanding of, as I'm getting to know this better and better and getting to know people better and better, is Enneagram personality type 2, you may, if it's the helper or nurturing supporter. So let's start with their superpower. Let's start there. Biggest thing is most probably the ability to discern other people's feelings and emotions, and then somehow come alongside them and be there for them.
Yeah.
We mentioned that they're able to read a room or be in a room and experience what people are feeling and thinking, even if the people themselves don't know it.
Sure.
Now, so that's a superpower. Now, from a motivation point of view, they have like most numbers in a different way, but particularly the feeling numbers, have a desire to be needed and valued and loved. And so, in their mind, the way to be needed, valued and loved is that they need to come alongside you to serve you in some way with what it is that you are going through.
Okay.
And in that way, they can prayerfully win your love and acceptance on the one side, and on the other side, they can avoid their own needs that they don't feel like they necessarily want to express, and fear of rejection that if they express it, that you might not want to help them, and they won't be able to deal with that humiliation or rejection. And all of this, to be clear, for each personality type, majority of the time happens unconsciously. Sometimes consciously, but more unconsciously. So it's not that they necessarily go in there and say, oh, I'm now doing it to win your approval.
Sure.
But if you stop and think you think it through, you realize that that might have been the motivation.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, man, possibly I am gifted in this way to see what other people are not able to see, and I feel called by God to serve you in this way, and honor and pleasing to Him, and you would be a beneficiary of that, not to win your approval or your love.
Yeah, sure. So there was a couple people, obviously, who haven't done the test, and then some on Sunday who had done the test. And of course, it's great when you see the superpower, and everybody, I'm sure, will feel that way as we get through the numbers. But it kind of it becomes a little bit squirmish when you start to see, sure, the dark side is real and it exists, right? And obviously, the goal of this exercise is to use this tool, emphasis underlined in bold, tool. Called the Enneagram, to help us to be able to be aware of ourselves and then aware of other people and how those relationships can then play about. So in line with that, if, let's say, let's start with the 2 and we'll see where this conversation goes.
Okay.
But let's talk about what happens when a 2 is in an unhealthy space.
When a 2 is in an unhealthy space, I think what can happen is that they can become controlling and manipulative towards a particular end for various ways and means. So in other words, where in an unhealthy space, they can become controlling, manipulative, and want to provide service for you that you don't necessarily even want.
Sure.
Okay, so they decide what is best for you. They decide what you want and need, and they never ask you. Okay, this is what you want and need, and I'm not providing that service.
Sure.
That could be an unhealthy space. Another unhealthy space would be, and again, I'm not saying that this is how people that are masters of the Enneagram will explain it. My experience with it is that you would run around everywhere and help everybody. So in other words, I'm literally going from person to person to person to person. I'm help. Yeah. And in the process, I obviously neglect myself. And then eventually that leads to burnout and resentment, because at some point I'm not thinking, I've helped all these people, I've helped you. Let's say I'm a 2, which I'm not, but let's say I am. And I've constantly been helping you. And in the back of my mind, subconsciously, I'm doing this so that you would render service to me when needed.
Yeah.
And then there's the tricky part of, I expect you to know what I need without me communicating it.
Sure.
Okay, so
sure.
now I don't communicate it. You don't meet the need. and now I'm resentful because I've given so much to you.
But you've reciprocated.
And you've not reciprocated.
Sure.
And I never said I even needed it.
Fair enough.
But if you loved me, because remember, I have a superpower and I can mostly see when people are out of tune, so why don't you have that superpower too?
Got you.
But that being said, I think every number does that. So every personality type thinks my superpower is normal.
Yeah.
And so if I do it, why don't others?
Yes, yeah. And I think that's what's interesting about the tool is that what it helps one to see is, because I'm not a 2, I'm in the same category and we'll talk about me soon, but I'm not a 2. And so when I interact with a 2, and I live with one in my home, there can be times when it's like, what's going on? You've just shut down vibes, but it's because of this is what they're dealing with internally. And so all of a sudden it brings the conversation towards this idea of how we relate with one another requires my own awareness, but it requires my awareness of, okay, this is what motivates, or this could be what is happening behind this excessive need to help, or this controllingness, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think I might be wrong on this, but the shutdown of your 2 might be more denying in them, which we'll get to at some point, than necessarily their 2. But it boils down to the same thing, that as I've said to a number of people who are trying to figure out their numbers and saying, I did this, I did the test, I don't feel like this, or I don't feel like that. I think mostly it is accurate, but I personally don't really think the numbers matter. The numbers are simply their personality types are simply there for self-understanding and the understanding of others. That's what we're aiming at. And whatever a number, this anonymous wife of yours.
You can say her name, it's fine.
This anonymous wife of yours might have, it's a realizing that processing for her is in retreat. Okay? Now, for me, mostly processing is verbal.
Sure.
Real time,
mostly.
I have retreat processing as well. So then my expectation, and Lisa's also like, so my expectation would then be for her to do the same, which she doesn't, and when she doesn't, I feel like she doesn't want to talk. She's rejecting me or the conversation, or she's not interested.
Yeah.
Or she is excluding herself from me because she's mad at me, upset with me, doesn't like me, or what have you, versus now she's actually just processing.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it gets entertaining.
Okay.
Now I treat her accordingly. So let's say someone is a 9, and we'll get to number 9 at some point. The person is retreating.
Sure.
A retreating person retreats because they're trying to process and make sense. They're trying to keep themselves safe, as they process things. I see it as rejection, and I now treat them accordingly. So I now treat them as if they are rejecting me, don't want to have anything to do with me, and are purposefully cutting me off.
Sure.
Now, depending again on what my personality type is, the person can, in my case, get frustrated or angry.
Yeah.
And so now she's in hiding, the person's in hiding. I come, and how am I approaching them in their hiding? With anger.
Yeah, you're bashing down doors.
Yeah. So what does that do?
Makes it worse.
It makes it worse.
Back. Yeah.
So one is I need to see that the person is not trying to diss me, but the person is trying to find themselves.
Yeah.
And so my question is, okay, so one is, don't take it personal. This is not actually me. I just caused something.
Yeah.
I've triggered something that is putting the person in distress or stress.
Sure.
So how do I now come alongside this person to help them come back into the harbor?
Sure.
And obviously the best person to ask this of would be the person.
Yeah. But in a good space.
In a good space.
Not in that moment.
Not in that moment, yes.
Sure.
But in a out of that moment space when we're all happy to be able to have conversations, because that person retreats. Now let's say for me, I'm a verbal processor, and so I can get animated in my processing of things. What does it mean to come alongside me in that moment?
Yeah.
We had the discussion earlier this morning. If you come to me and you say to me, I'm saying, oh man, not that this would ever happen, but let's say I met with Rima and, oh man, it was just so frustrating. I'm not telling Lisa, oh, this was just so frustrating, I've asked him to do but this, that, and he and now she turns to me and says, sure, you're so judgmental.
Sure.
That is immediately going to put me in shutdown.
Yes, yeah.
Because I'm communicating. processing.
Yeah.
At least I didn't do it with you.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be thankful.
Although I don't even know, I'm not privy to this conversation, but I am now.
You're not privy to the conversation at all.
Yeah.
The point is, I'm not having it with you because it will be hurtful. And I'm just processing.
Yeah. This is how you work through your feelings, whereas for them, they retreat.
Yes, that they would work it in silence. And only an evil person in their mind would be processing it the way that I'm processing it, because everyone should process the way that they're processing. Now, obviously, they're the same. Everyone should be processing the way that I'm processing. So why are you not open? Why are you not honest? Why do you go and hide out in places?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you got something to hide?
Sure.
So it's a continuous loop of dysfunction if we don't understand ourselves and others.
Yeah. So I want to underline something you said and maybe kind of focus on this idea, because I think the biggest challenge is that don't take it personal challenge. Because, and this, people may not like me saying this, but the way that I've seen the world, and I'm only 28, so I'm going to say that, but is most times we live from a place of the world is as I see it, not as it is, right? And so the way I see it is the person who retreats is leaving me, or the person who comes in verbally processing is attacking me, even if it's not me in the situation, but whatever, I perceive it a certain way, and so therefore I react to what I perceive being the perceived slight or even the perceived good, right? Yes. In the case of the 2 with an 8, 8s don't want help unless they ask for it. The 2 just gives help. The 2 just gives help, and then it can come across as if, but I don't. That's not what I'm asking for, and that can cause some dysfunction. So, how does one get to the place of just more naturally saying, okay, this isn't against me. Like, this isn't about me.
Well, it requires understanding of people.
Sure.
And humility and conversation. So, in the first class I mentioned this idea, the older you are, the more you'll see it, is the web of repetition.
Sure.
So, and if I'm discerning enough, I'll say, okay, so let's say, I don't want to make it necessarily on my own marriage, but let's talk about us. So this Lisa retreat, I attack, Lisa retreat, I attack, the more I attack, the more she retreats. That movie, this season 1, 2, 3, 4.
How many years have you been married now?
24. So there's 24 seasons with at least a good 50 episodes a season. So at some point, one needs to have enough humility and discernment to see that both of us respond that way to conflict, not just with each other, but with other people.
Sure.
So if I have conflict with other people, I tend to respond the same way. So it's not personal to the individual.
Yeah.
Okay. And mostly, if we look at it, we'll see it. We'll see that we all respond a particular way. Now, our definition of self-awareness is how does my being aware of how my habitual and predictable ways of thinking, acting, feeling either serves me or defeats me in my relationship with God and others. So one is I need to be self-aware, realizing, oh, this is defeating my relationship with Lisa.
Yeah.
But then when I act that way and she cannot choose for me, she can also choose for herself and realize the way that she responds now, and vice versa, will either serve or defeat the relationship.
Sure. Hectic. It just, that seems like the major first hurdle. Because if, I'll use you guys as an example because you've already done it, but if a point of contest comes up, or a point of conflict comes up, because conflict in itself is not wrong, it's actually very healthy. But if it comes up, the immediate natural instinct is to say, there's something me involved in this thing, whether it's my opinion, whether it's my feeling, whether it's whatever. And what I'm hearing you say is it's to have the humility to say what Paul said in Philippians, that think more highly of someone else than yourself. Or as C.S. Lewis would say, think about others, not to think about yourself less. What? Oh, the quote now escaped me. But he says, it's not to think about less of yourself, it's to think about yourself less.
Yes, there we go. So that would be one component. The other component, and I'm busy in the process of learning this, is if I can understand you better. So if I can understand why do you do what you do. So if if I'm able to understand that Lisa does not feel safe and so she retreats, or denying, the type of person,
Sure.
a 9 and a 5 can lean that way, then I understand, wow, she's actually taking strain. And those are signs of her taking strain.
Sure.
Now, for me, the strain looks very different. For me, the strain could be also, I could also retreat less, or I can verbally process. So see that I'm taking strain. Don't listen to what I'm saying or doing. Try and see what is behind what I'm saying and doing, and respond to that.
Yeah.
So a person retreats, which then means they're actually wounded.
Yeah.
Which is easier to see than the verbal processor. But in essence, the verbal processor is the same.
Yes.
The person that's animated, I cannot believe this happened, and they said this, and they did that, they're also wounded. Now, how do you come alongside a wounded person? See, you walk along the road and you see someone get shot. How do you come alongside them? What are you doing? Why were you in front of the bullet?
Sure. No, that's not the one, yeah.
you come alongside, you try and help. So I think having understanding, ultimately what's going to come out in the numbers, we all are crying out for love and acceptance, approval, but we're doing it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
We're doing it in unattractive ways for someone who has a different personality than us. People that share our personality. Oh, I get you, brother. I get you, man.
Yeah.
Process with me. Process with...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Process. I've got a friend that I have made a pact with, as we've worked through some issues over the years, is saying, dude, whatever you do, process with me.
Yeah.
Not with the individual that you are upset with.
Sure.
Process with me, because I understand.
Yes.
Get it all out. Get it all out.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
There's no judgment.
No judgment here.
Yeah.
I understand you need to get it out. But I can tell you, buddy, if you're going to be telling what you tell me, if you tell that dude, that is going to end badly for you.
Sure.
Okay. Everyone is going to be a blow up for everybody.
Yeah.
Because I understand, because we share similarities.
Yeah.
And so the retriever obviously will share similarities with another retriever. They'll know, oh, you also are completely a man. Take your space, take your space. It's opposites.
Yeah. See, that's the interesting dynamic, and maybe we should land the ship here. But the interesting dynamic is that generally it's opposites that attract. So if we're talking about close friendships, if we're talking about same family group, if we're talking about, I know my family group, we've got, all of us in the WhatsApp group have said what's our primary and our wing, like, and you just realize like we're all over the board. And so all of a sudden it makes sense why maybe perhaps brother A and B don't hit it off as well as me and brother A, because of that. But I think what helps with these sorts of conversations is the realization that, man, we're all looking for the same thing. And the way we pursue it may not necessarily draw you in, but can you try to see my heart? Can you try to look beyond that? And not the only way, but the greatest way to do that is to begin to learn one yourself, but then to learn other people.
And in the same breath, then for me, okay, so you're as an outsider looking at me, you're trying to see my heart, okay? But also for me, I need to look at how does my habitual and predictable ways of thinking, acting, feeling, doing serve me or defeat me in my relationship with you. So I need to realize I do something that triggers you. I do something that, why do I have so few friends?
Sure.
Maybe there's something that I'm doing that is causing people to move away from me instead of drawing them to me. And so now I need to self-regulate, monitor and self-regulate in the moment, not beat myself up, realize I'm not exactly, read the room. I'm in a position where I can see you've checked out. Or you are trying to avoid me, or I see you coming to fellowship and a person hides. So it's self-awareness.
It's a long journey. I feel like
it is indeed.
This is going to be kind of this similar vibe every time, because it keeps coming back to, if I can learn myself better and better, and if I can learn other people better and better, then I can really fight to be the me that God intends me to be.
There we go.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.